Welcome back, everyone, to another video. If you guys get the opportunity to watch Jason Whitlock's last show, I mean, it's the last show that I know of. Maybe it's not his latest show, but it was the show when he interviewed two Colorado players, two ex-Colorado players. Now, when I saw the title, I have to confess, when I saw the title, I was like, okay, this is going to be football players who were disgruntled that they didn't get playing time or that they got cut off the team. And excuse me. And I was more so already had my mind kind of already fixated on what I thought the content was going to be about. But as I've always been taught growing up, you never judge a book by its cover. You know, oftentimes titles can actually give us a prefixed mindset or a prefixed notion of what we believe or think that something's going to be. So what I did, I said, let me just listen to what's gonna happen. Of course, when I clicked on the show, on the Fearless Jason Whitlock show, there was other stuff that we're talking about. So I just fast forwarded. I just wanted to get to the part where he got to the two ex-Colorado players, and I wanted to hear what they had to say. And wow, I was blown away. I recommend everyone, if you have not already. I know some of you guys who listen to me, you guys have listened to him too. I've even had people refer to me as Jason Whitlock Jr., and I hate that because I really do not like, well, let me rephrase this. I really don't agree with a lot of things that Jason Whitlock stands for. I really don't. And initially, when the Coach Prime experience started with Colorado, I was totally against everything that Jason Whitlock was saying. It just took me time to actually see what he was talking about. But it wasn't like I was trying to look for it. I was still gung-ho about Coach Prime. I was still full force moving ahead with his tactics. I was all for it. But as the season started to unwind, I started to see certain things, and the way I started to think started to kind of align with Jason Whitlock. And I didn't want that to happen. I fought against it. Sometimes you just have to agree with people that you normally disagree with. And I normally disagree with Jason Whitlock. And I do not like being compared to him because in terms of our takes on Coach Prime. But we just happen to be in agreement about Coach Prime on this one. But then you get the naysayers, the people who come against me saying it's always the black people that pull black people down. No, it's people that pull people down. People pull themselves down. People need to be held accountable to what they do. I'm just a spokesperson speaking my mind and giving commentary. And Jason Whitlock is just doing the same thing. He just has a larger viewing population than I do. However, it's still people that are just being critical of what they see. Whether Coach Prime was white, black, Mexican, it doesn't matter what the hell he is. So this idea that we need to get special treatment because it's a black man, we just need to turn a blind eye and not critique what he's doing. How do we improve as a people if we don't critique each other? How do we improve if we don't hold each other's feet to the fire and do our best or do our due diligence to dismiss the BS? No. Actually, when one black person looks bad, we all look bad. That's just the way I look at it, because oftentimes when a person does something that's negative, especially a person of minority or a person of color, it's magnified, and then that sort of stigma tends to permeate and reverberate throughout the black American or the black experience. People end up using that as the moniker to say this is what black people are about. They're ghetto, they're undisciplined, they don't know how to run a team. They're all about bling bling and flash. They're animals, they're savages. I could go on. And it gets really racial. It gets borderline racist. So no, when a black person is in a leadership role, especially when a black person has the potential and has the capacity to lead men, and has the talent to lead men, and has the gift to lead men, and are using it incorrectly, you damn right I'm going to speak against it, because it's sad. It's a travesty. It's a travesty. When you're gifted, but you use your gift for evil, or you use your gift in the wrong way. So anyway, getting back to that Fearless episode with Jason Whitlock with the two ex-players, I thought it was phenomenal. I'm going to do a video later to detail out some of the things that were said, and to give my commentary on bit by bit on the interview. I'm going to do my best to break down the body language of the two ex-Colorado football players. And my heart goes out to those two kids, or two young men rather. And everything that people were saying about Coach Prime is looking like it's true. It doesn't seem like the guy cares for players. He cares about a specific group. And I said this on the video, and I got a lot of heat for it. You're a hater. You don't know what you're talking about. You're making videos. You're making for money. You're getting clicks. What money? What money am I making? I'm not making any money off these videos. You know, I'm a grown man right now. I'm driving to work in the morning. And it's not like I have a group of friends that I talk to. And I don't care for friends. I have my wife and my 3 kids. I think I'm good. I have my brother and I have an older sister. I'm not out here like a little kid looking for friends. But this is just something that I do for fun. I'm just talking. It's just like me picking up a phone, talking to somebody, telling them my opinion about what I think about Coach Prime. It just happens to be I'm doing it on a social media platform and people are tuning into what I'm talking about. I'm not doing this for money. So, yeah, I thought that interview was very telling about Coach Prime. And somebody left a comment on my page and asked me the question, do I think that Coach Prime has characteristics of a Machiavellian type character? And I said, hell yes, he does. Especially after that interview that I saw on Jason Whitlock's channel. Man, it's one thing, and that's why I said what I said yesterday, that it's an act that he's putting on a television when he's like, you know that's my son, right? You know that's my son, right? I mean, you gotta understand, like, that's my son, right? I mean, you understand that's my son, right? And you know, I'm gonna do all I can to protect my son, right? All that smiling and all of that, like, that's just a distraction from what's going on. The man doesn't want to deal with reality and the ramifications of what's going on with his football team, with him losing coaches and losing players. It's not easy just to replace what you already have. Sometimes it's better to deal with the devil that you know than deal with the devil that you don't know. Yes, a lot of people had a lot of things to say negatively about the Colorado football team in terms of their personnel. The offensive line is horrible. The defense is this. We understand that the team does need a rebuild. But look at what many coaches do in the country when they come to a team that needs a rebuild. It's a slow process, especially in the first year. You want to see improvements incrementally. So to sit there and just derail your team and then think that you can just plug in what you need and go. If it was that easy, then every college coach in the college profession would be successful. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Just as much as you are looking for recruits and looking for a certain type of player to fit your system, you have to understand that that's the same kind of approach that you're taking towards players is the same type of approach that's being taken towards you, Coach Prime. People are looking at you. They're looking at how you run your program. So they're just being just as critical of you as you're being critical of them. I know a lot of the times they say, yo, coaches, they go inside a family's home. They talk to the family. They want to see the upbringing of the kid. They want to make sure that the kid comes from a good, solid home, yada, yada, yada. He makes good grades. They talk to his high school coaches. They talk to his teachers. They try to get a full or well-rounded intel about the particular player so they can get a glimpse as to what type of athlete or what type of student athlete that the player is going to be on that university. But I'm telling you, just as insightful as you guys are being about the players and how you guys are fully motivated to find out about certain athletes and their mentality, hey, look, you're being critiqued just as well. So this idea that I'm going to get what I need, where players are also looking for what they need as well. It's a relationship. It's not one way. It's not you go get what you want and that's it. No, players are also looking for what they want. Families are looking for what they want. And most kids that come from a good home, that have parents with a brain, are going to look at what you're doing, Coach Prime, and they're not going to allow their kids to go to your university. They're not going to allow your kids to do that. They're not going to allow their kids to do that. Not if they love their kids. You're probably going to get kids that are desperate to play and players who haven't gotten the opportunities to play, who are not that talented. And I think that's what you're going to get next year. You're going to get a crop of kids that do come to play for you, but they won't have the talent of the team you had this year. I want to actually make sure that I'm quoted on that. He's going to replace the players that lost, but you're not going to replace their talent. I mean, after seeing that video yesterday of that kid, the linebacker that worked so hard and how he was dismissed off the team by Coach Prime, I mean, you can't look the guy in the eye. Your players speak to you, you just dismiss them, you're on your phone. I told you guys this is what's going to happen. I said after the season, Yeah, I feel like I am prophetic. Yeah, I do. I feel that way because it's not that I'm prophetic. It's just experience and wisdom. You have a team, and then all of a sudden at the end of the season, the team starts to fall apart. And I said this earlier. I said that locker room was fragmented. And a lot of you guys would say you don't know what you're talking about, yada yada yada. I said it earlier that the locker room is fragmented. Do not allow those well-off media videos to make you feel like the whole team is just one cohesive unit of men that are working together for one common goal. No, because there's no one common goal coming from the head coach. If the leadership is fragmented, then everything is fragmented. Your players, your football team is a reflection of you as a coach. If you're a teacher, your classroom is a reflection on you as a teacher. If you're a principal, whatever you are, that's just the way things work. People may not agree with that, but that's the truth. That's the hardcore truth. So the fragmentation of the team is a reflection of the coaching practices of Coach Prime, or the coaching philosophy of Coach Prime, or his dynamic of the way he deals with young men. And I heard somebody on a comment on Jason Whitlock's show. They said that the players that were dismissed weren't black enough. Those two Colorado players. Well, one of them had an injury, so he couldn't play anyway. The doctors did not clear him to come back. He had some kind of spinal injury or spinal disease, and for him to do surgery or for him to play is very risky. He can end up being a quadriplegic. So I understand his situation of why he had to kind of like quit football. But even with that, even the way he was treated, he just wanted to kind of build a relationship with Coach Prime and be on the team to be some type of support. He just wanted to be part of the team, and he was never even allowed to even have a conversation with Coach Prime. And the other linebacker guy he was converted from a defensive end, who was converted from a D end to the I think middle linebacker, I believe, or I don't know if he was outside or middle, but anyway, he was moved to a linebacker position. Young kid, smart kid. He wants to be a lawyer. These are the kind of men that you dismiss. Smart. He talks about this all the time. Doesn't Coach Prime talk about that? I want men to be disciplined, fast, smart, hardworking. You had that. You had that in that linebacker. You dismissed them because you had your crop of guys. I feel, and I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I feel that Coach Prime was systematically and intentionally trying to convert Colorado University into an HBCU. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, that's not the point. I feel like that's what he was trying to do. So I think that when you make a deal with the devil oftentimes, more often than not, will give you what you want in order to derail a bigger plan. What do I mean by that? Well, there have been other people that have been very outspoken about the transition from Jackson State University when Coach Prime left Jackson State to come to Colorado. A lot of people say, why leave a place where you were generating, you could have been a motivational figure, you could have been a person to change the landscape of HBCUs, you're able to flip major athletes from going to the Power 5 conferences to come to the HBCUs. The kind of money you were generating at Jackson State could have been a blueprint for other coaches. I mean, yada, yada, yada. A lot of people were saying a lot of things of what Prime should have done. Well, now the more information that I'm getting about Coach Prime, it just makes sense why he left. It's not about making it better for minorities or making it better for black people. It's about his agenda, what he wants. It's sort of like a kid who grows up who's just used to hanging around his black friends. He doesn't really get along with his white friends. He doesn't see eye to eye with his white friends. He doesn't even connect with them. He may say hi to his white friends, but in terms of who he wants to be around most of the time, he wants to be around his black people. And there's nothing wrong with that. We tend to kind of gravitate towards people that share our same mindset and come from our same cultural backgrounds. So I think that's what Prime is. Prime is just a 56-year-old man that's acting like he's 26 years old, or acting like he's, I don't want to say 16 because that's way too young, but you get what I'm saying. He has a mentality. He doesn't have a corporate mindset, a corporate business mindset. He has a mindset of a child. And that's what allows him to gravitate towards the youth. But I don't, that's, to me, when you're imbalanced in that aspect, it's good to gravitate towards youth and relate to them, but you don't want to relate to them to the point where they're looking at you as if you're them. There's supposed to be a demarcation of coach, player. There's supposed to be a separation of a football program and then what you do on your leisure time. I don't think you should be mixing in the hip-hop culture in your locker room like that. I don't think there should be an amalgamation of hardcore gangster rap being infused within the dynamic of a football team. I mean, football, you have a football team that was supposed to be. You have a football team that's amassed with an immense amount of cultural diversity within that team. And maybe, yeah, most of the players in Colorado this year were African American, were black, but you still had other races that were there. I think you got to respect that. Nobody wants to hear all that stuff all the time, gangster rap stuff. Just turn that shit off, turn the music off. Focus on football. You're not even focused on your players. So to me, everything that Coach Prime is doing is for show. And we'll see how this circus show is going to end up next year. I think next year is going to be the litmus test. That's going to be the ultimate equalizer to say, okay, with all things equal, this is what this man's about. I think being his first year, there's a certain degree of grace that's still allotted to Coach Prime. And I think he deserves it to a degree because it's still his first year. So I always have to keep that in mind. But the second year, we're really going to see what Coach Prime is about. And from what I'm hearing and from the things that are unfolding, I do not see good things happening at Colorado next year. You just can't plug and play. That's not the way it works. Now, if he had a great season, if he is the motivator that he said he is, if he is the caring father and a caring mentor as he portrays himself to be, if it's a calling from God to come there to lead men as he says he was called to be, then yes, I would number one, players wouldn't leave. Number two, there would be an influx, a massive influx of guys from the portal wanting to come play for him. But I think the word is getting out. I said this on my previous video, and I know I sound like a broken record when I keep saying I said this on my previous video. I just find it very interesting that most of the things I've been saying for a long time are actually coming to fruition. I said that in due time, you guys that call me haters, I said that in due time, players talk. Players talk. When a locker room is fragmented, as these players start to leave, they're going to start doing interviews. Those two ex-football players for Colorado were just the first in many lines to come. But of course, you guys that are Coach Prime apologists, you guys are going to say, oh, these people are sent to attack him. They're hating on him. They have an agenda. No, the only person that has an agenda here is Coach Prime. I don't think these young athletes are being paid. What did they get out? Those two men that came on Jason Whitlock's show yesterday, what benefits do they get from going on there? Now, some people may say, oh, they're getting attention. So, okay, everybody gets a certain degree of attention. But them talking about their experience with Coach Prime, what does that benefit, or what do they benefit from that? That's the point I'm making. They're not getting any money from it. He's not getting an NIL deal because of it. As a matter of fact, the fact that he's being sort of critical on his coach, well, he wasn't even being critical. Like he said, he's not there to judge. He said he's just giving the facts and letting the world know about what he experienced with Coach Prime. But he's such a smart man. He also gave kudos to the other coaches on the team. He didn't throw every coach underneath the bus. He gave much respect to his linebacker coach. He said he learned a lot from his linebacker coach. He even talked about his past coaches that he's had before and talked about how great they were. So this is not some sort of hit piece on Coach Prime. This is just a reality piece on Coach Prime. And I think that as a country and as a nation, we are immune. We are somehow not even immune. I think that we are allergic. We are allergic to truth. I think that media has done a great job. Media to me is a CIA operation. I've always said it's a psychological operation that the CIA, if you look back at Operation Mockingbird, they've done so many things to us from a psychological perspective to brainwash us, to make sure that the only truth that we see happen is a truth that's framed. When I say truth that's framed, it means that when something is framed, that means that you're getting something that's not true. Truth should never be framed. Truth is impervious to framing. Truth is free-flowing. Truth just occurs organically. But when you start putting things in frames, then that's a narrative. That's what you call a propagandized message. A message that's put into a box to push forth to the masses, to give them information, to actually to slant the narrative so people can actually start speaking with the rhetoric that's bent towards what the intended result was meant to be. So if I want certain people to look at Prime a certain way, I'm going to frame it. But Coach Prime does a great job at framing his own stuff. The social media team that he has, he's working with Michael Strahan. with I always forget the name of that social media. Oh, Smack Entertainment. That's the name of his promotional group. That group that he works with, the framing of his message, the things that he's doing with his older son, the older son that does not play, the one that does the media stuff for well off, everything that they're doing is to benefit the family. The son has a social media page, has massive viewings, thousands and thousands of followers, thousands of subscribers. Kudos to the older son for doing his thing. You have Coach Prime, who actually operates his football team like a reality show. It's almost like watching the Kardashians, but the football version. I mean, we're inside the locker room, we're seeing what's being done. Of course, certain things are curated. They're not going to show you everything. They're not going to show you raw footage from beginning to end. There's certain things that are shown, different clips. That's what you mean by curation. That's framing. Because truth, if it was real truth, if it's real reality, you'll let the cameras run 24/7 and allow all of America just to see how you are with your players 24/7. We never saw those experiences that those two ex-Colorado football players talked about. We've never seen Coach Prime be dismissive of a student. We've never seen it. But like I told you guys, there are many things that go on inside the locker room that we're not going to be privy to. I told you guys the locker room was fragmented, but you guys didn't believe me. Now that the dust is settled and the football season is over with and the transfer portal is now open for players to enter it, you're going to start to see other players start to speak out. Kavasi Smoke, who this was his last year, he started it all by saying it was a selfishness on the team. And I told you guys what he meant by that. He wasn't talking about players being selfish. He was talking about the coach being selfish and being very self-centered about his agenda and the uplifting of his sons, Travis, Shiloh, and Shador. I add Travis in there because he looks at Travis as his own son, adopted son. His yeah. And then another player came out and said something too. I think it was a wide receiver. He made a comment too, and that kind of went viral, and people kind of jumped on him for some of the things he said. So these are just the beginnings of a storm that's coming. It's a quiet storm right now. Mark my words, people. I'm going to make another video later on in the week, or maybe a week or two from now. I'm going to say I said this. I'm prophetically saying it again. These are just the beginnings of a snowball effect that's about to occur. And as the momentum starts to drive downward, as the gravity starts to pull, the snowball gets bigger and bigger. And the impact that it's going to have on that Colorado football team is going to be immense, to its own detriment. Players are not going to go there, folks. Now, they're going to have a team. They're going to get the scraps. They're going to get worse players. I would argue and say that their coaching, they've lost coaching in terms of coaching pedigree. I think that, remember, in the beginning of the year, when Colorado have initially put their team together and put their coaching staff together, many people were making the argument that Coach Prime had one of the best coaching staffs in college football, if not the best. So tell me how you have a coaching staff. And the reason why I know that is because that ex-Colorado football player, he mentioned it, how great the other coaches were. They had good coaches. Nick Williams is leaving Prime because he doesn't want to work with Prime. Of course, he's going to thank Prime for what he's done for him. But people who have sense know how to operate and compartmentalize their actions. Just because you don't like working with somebody doesn't mean you have to show it. Like I said, you take bits and pieces of what you can gain from that person in terms of the good, and you shave off the negative. And you take your own style, and you take your own philosophy, and you take it somewhere else where it can actually thrive. Because many people understood that they could not thrive underneath Coach Prime. Emotions are real, folks. You can't, if you have a strong affinity towards anything, whether it's women, whether it's drugs, whatever vice you have. And I would consider the affinity towards his son, Shador, as sort of a vice because it clouds his judgment. It clouds Coach Prime's judgment. He's never coached anything else but his son. So, I mean, I'm asking the question, like, even if, let's say, Shador leaves after this year, which he is going to leave after next football season, because next football season is his last football year of eligibility. And let's say Coach Prime, for hypothetically speaking, decides to still stay, which I doubt. He's not staying after next year. But let's say he stays. We don't even know what kind of coach he is. I mean, are you even a coach? Are you or are you just a father who's overly passionate about their son, and then that passion is what drives you to motivate men, and you just know how to get coaching personnel, to do the offensive coordinating and the defensive coordinating? we have to ask the question: is Coach Prime actually a coach, or is he a cheerleader? Because we don't know of him ever coaching without his son, coaching a team without his son. How will he be after Shedeur leaves, assuming he even stays? Which is why a lot of people don't believe that he's staying after next year, and we'll see. We'll see. And the only reason why he may stay is because his daughter still plays basketball for Colorado. I think after she's up, he's definitely leaving. It's a family thing, folks. He doesn't care about Colorado or football. He doesn't care about Colorado or Colorado football. He does not give a damn about those players. And that was telling on that interview yesterday. He doesn't care about men. He doesn't care about people. He doesn't care. He cares about himself. And he's already put the framing, he's already framed his truth to the masses, and people bite it. They eat it, they consume it, they digest it. And when somebody speaks out against it, like Jason Whitlock or people like me, I'm called a hater. I'm profiting off of Coach Prime. No. We're critical thinkers, folks. We don't let our emotions lead us. We lead the emotion. We take the energy and emotion and lead it. When you're led by your emotion, then you're lost. Energy is real, folks. You have to watch your energy. And if at any time the social media conglomerate, they put out a message about a particular person, you already knew. I'm not even surprised that he won Sportsman of the Year. It was already tailor-made for him to win it. When all of college football was focused on him this year, it generated money for the beast system. I made a video about that. When you feed the beast will reward you. When you make a deal with the devil, you will get your rewards. That's what makes making deals with the devil so enticing. I don't think people deliberately go make deals with evil people to their own detriment. No one does that. If you make a deal with somebody, you're making a deal that's going to benefit you. But that deal you make also benefits the person you're making a deal with. That's why it's called making a deal with the devil. Colorado got what it wanted. NCAA got what it wanted. I believe people like Umar Johnson, when he came out, he was very outspoken about how, even though he still supports Prime, he still wants Prime to succeed. But he talked about it on one of the channels I was listening to. He talked about how he saw the change that Coach Prime could have had at the HBCUs, even the playing field, so to speak, and take back our black athletes. He just saw Umar is more of a revolutionary. He saw Coach Prime's position at the HBCUs as something that was strong and powerful for black people. But then he saw the leaving of Coach Prime as something that was negative, because he looked at it from this standpoint. If the NCAA was afraid, that's his take, not my take. He says the NCAA was afraid of the impact that Coach Prime could have being at the HBCUs. So he says that this is what's wrong with our black people. We always have a price. We can always be bought. So they offered Prime more money to come to the Power 5 conferences. And not only did he just go to any school, he went to one of the whitest schools ever. That's all right. So the deal with the devil that he's talking about is that, yeah, you get what you want, Coach Prime. You finally get to go to a Power 5 school, take your son there to pat his stats, to uplift your son's name in talks of possibly winning the Heisman. You get what you want, and then the NCAA in Colorado gets what they want. The white people get what they want. That's his words, but I'm paraphrasing. The white people get what they want in terms of more revenue, more attention to an all-white, to mostly white-dominated university that doesn't really need your money, but you make them richer. But you also get richer, Coach Prime, and you also get to uplift your son and put him on the path to success of what you deem success to be. And that success is padding stats and winning the Heisman and being a first-round pick in the NFL draft. So everybody got what they wanted out of the deal. And the only people that didn't get anything out of the deal were the other players who didn't have the last name of Sanders or Hunter. So now I think you guys are starting to get the drift of my point here. It's never been about players. It's been about Coach Prime's own personal agenda. And it's great for men like that to always use God and speak with the Christian rhetoric, because many people who are followers or Christians, they're longing to have somebody that's a public figure, that has a mass following, to profess to be a lover of Jesus Christ. They love that. Oh, do you see that player say he thanks Jesus? It's almost like a competition to see who's the most popular person. We know that there are a plethora of religions that exist out there. Religion to me is a man-made construct. I even made a video about that and talked about it. And when people start to use, the word Jesus this and God told me that, we just get sucked in. That right brain gets bloviated. That right brain of creativity and imagination just starts to run wild. You know why? Because we are longing for somebody to represent our belief. But that's the problem. It's all belief. It's just things it's tools that people use to manipulate. All these cult leaders, they use that to manipulate the weak-minded, the gullible, the people who are desperate. You're preconditioned before you're conditioned and brainwashed is very important. What do I mean by your precondition? Precondition is the condition you are in before you are conditioned and brainwashed. That's why it's called precondition. Precondition is this: if you're desperate for belonging, then you're easily conditioned and being influenced and being brainwashed to someone else's agenda. A lot of you guys love the Bible, love your God, right? So when you have a person like Dion talking about God said this, God said that, all of a sudden our antennas goes up. We're like, oh my God, he mentioned God. He mentioned God. He's a follower. He's a believer. I don't get moved by that. That's emotions. That's emotional appeal. And that's what religion does. It gravitates to the human bent. And the emotions can be easily swayed. That's why when people who are emotional, people who operate off their amygdala, the amygdala is the back part of the brain that every kid has when they're born. Every child has it. And every person has it until they are mature enough to have their frontal lobe actually fully developed, and they can start making critical decisions and now allowing their emotions or impulse to lead them. That's why do you think the insurance rates are higher for younger drivers? Because they drive with impulse. They don't think. They take risks. They're not thinking it's a risk. That's just the way their brains are wired. It's emotion. They're angry. They cut you off and try that. That's what they do. So when you're operating off of your reptilian brain, the amygdala, you're gonna oftentimes, and that's what you're doing when you're stuck in religion, because we have two parts of our brain. It has to be in harmony. But the right side is the part that's bound with creativity and imagination. And so when a person, especially like especially when Tebow, remember when Tebow would kneel down? Oh man, Christians were loving that. We have a person that's popular, that's representing Jesus Christ. Look, we need to stop that because it clouds judgment. I don't give a damn what you believe in. I go off the end product. What are you doing? Is this self-serving? Spirituality is not to be seen. Spirituality is hidden. That's when you get the term amen, 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 ra, amen. When you say amen, it means hidden, concealed. So when you guys are praying your prayers and you say amen at the end, you're basically saying whatever I pray for, I want it to be hidden, I want it to be concealed. That's an Egyptian concept, but they won't tell you that. They tell you that amen means so let it be. Yeah, so let it be hidden. It's hidden. That's the root. They get it from Egypt. They got it from the old ancient books of Egypt, the books of the dead, the ancient books of the dead, the spiritual books of Egypt that they took out of the libraries at Luxor and they burnt it down. Greeks have done that for ages. Europeans are great at doing that. They go inside your country, they take what's yours, and they make it their own. Same thing they did in Iraq when they went to the war in 9/11. They didn't go there to get rid of weapons of mass destruction. They went there to take resources, and they went there to take those ancient religious relics. And what they're going to do in years to come, they're going to fashion and form it and make it seem like they're the ones that created it. They're good at stealing what you create and making it like it's their own. Those in power are the ones with the power of the pen, and those with the power of the pen are the ones that actually write history to benefit them. So I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but when you're talking about the Coach Prime experience, it delves into many facets of life. You can take that experience with Coach Prime and actually extrapolate that out into different facets of the human experience. That's just the way it is. So that interview that was given by Whitlock yesterday was very telling with those two kids, and you can see the reaction of Whitlock when he was getting these answers. A lot of the times he was speechless. He was like, I think to Jason Whitlock, I think he knows that oftentimes he is being overly critical about Coach Prime. But I think yesterday, that interview that I saw yesterday, it sort of confirms his perception of him being overcritical. I think it actually affirmed his stance to say, no, I'm not being overly critical. I've been right about him. And I think after that interview, a lot of people who have probably thought they were being too overly critical about Coach Prime are going to sit there and say, oh my goodness, I think I wasn't being critical enough. I think I was right. And then the people who are just Coach Prime apologists, meaning that they see nothing wrong that he does, they're going to start scratching their head like, is this true? But it's hard to actually consider it being true when you are emotionally, entrapped by a man, by another human being. It's almost borderline worship. It clouds judgment. And what you're going to think is that people are creating a sort of coup or creating some sort of conspiracy against the person that you worship or the person that you love. That's what happens when you're into religion and your brain is just wired to be emotionally attached to a certain belief or a certain person. The only thing you should be attached to is yourself. Believe in yourself, and that's it. Just make life simple. Stop giving off your energy to other people. Coach Prime is a man like anybody else. A man who can't keep marriages and keep relationships. Claims to be a great father, but that could be questioned. The way he played his son this year. When Whitlock called it coaching malpractice, he got a lot of heat for that. Leaving in your son in games where he's clearly injured. You're still throwing the ball when you're up by 29 points at halftime. You keep talking about what your son needs to make him better, replacing the line, like everything that, 99.9% of the things that Coach Prime did this year was horrible. It was horrible. And he brought a lot of the criticism upon himself. He brought it upon himself. But I think that people who thought they were being too overly critical about him, if you watch that Fearless interview with those two ex-Colorado players, I think people will come to the realization to say, you know what, I think I was right about him. I wasn't being too overly critical. My critique was right on target. My critique was on point, so to speak. So yeah, we got to change, man. We have to this. We're bringing each other down. No one brings anybody down but themselves. I don't see anybody talking about Eddie George. Is anybody bringing him down? No, he's just coaching the team. He's doing the right way, but I guess that's boring. He's not black enough. He doesn't have the swagger like Coach Prime. He doesn't have the chains. He doesn't have the glasses. He doesn't have the gift of gab as Coach Prime does. And I want you guys to pay attention to how Coach Prime deals with reporters. Now, I've said this again. I've said this before in other videos. Because he tries to take control. Remember, he comes from media. He's been into media. He knows how it operates. He oftentimes cuts off reporters as they're asking their questions. He doesn't fully let you finish your thought. Pay attention to that. People will say, okay, Coach Prime, when you lost your players this year, yeah, I know I lost my players, I'm like, what? Let them finish. But no one has the pair of, to just stand up to Coach Prime and say, hey, Coach Prime, with all due respect, let me finish my question. Let me get my question out fully so you can understand where I'm going with this question, then you can answer it. What Coach Prime does, he tries to, even in an interview, he tries to steal the interview and make the interviewer be captive to his will. So you may have your own questions, but because I'm so smart and I'm all-knowing and God put me here and I know what you're thinking, I'm going to answer your question before you even ask it. And not to get into his personal life, because I heard, I was listening to the ticket. I haven't listened to the actual video, but I saw the title about him and his partner that he's engaged to. He was engaged to. I guess they called off the engagement. I don't know why, but they're making it seem like Coach Prime called it off. But knowing what I know about Coach Prime based upon the information that I've gathered about him, I can see how being in a relationship with him is difficult. I'm going to tell you why. Because he already thinks he knows what you're thinking. That's narcissism, folks. I'm sure he probably cuts off his girlfriends or cuts off his fiance when she's talking. I'm sure he doesn't let her do anything. I'm sure he's disrespectful to her. But he can attract attractive women because he has the gift of gab. He has a certain swagger about him and a certain confidence, and women are attracted to that. But you have to be careful, young ladies. You don't want to be a man who's too overly confident, all right? It's not good. It has to always talk about balance and harmony. It's not even balance. It's called harmony. You could be confident, but it has to be a quiet confidence that comes from within. You could be spiritual, but you can't be religious because religious is more external. Spiritual is internal. Real spiritual people, you don't even know what their faith is. They don't profess it. They don't wear t-shirts. They don't have stickers on their car that says, I follow Jesus, I love Jesus. They don't have tattoos on their bodies of a cross. They don't have that. Real spiritual people look within. I would argue that those people who call themselves atheists are probably more spiritual than those who call themselves Christians or Muslims. True spirituality is seeking of self. So you can be your better self. And it's a journey. It's not confining yourself to dogma and scriptures and then reciting those things and then going out into the world to see that if what you read could come true, and then looking through the lens of a book that's unhinged from your current culture, from your current contemporary experience as a human being. Then whenever you see certain things that happen, you pull it back into your book to say, hey, it's true because the Bible said this. It's not the way you live life. That's ass backwards. You're already given everything that you need internally and externally. You don't need a book. You don't need anything. You need yourself. You need yourself. So I can see how Coach Prime's relationships could be broken. I mean, a woman being with him, it would be tough. Doesn't let people talk. It doesn't let you speak. Cuts people off. And then he has this, when I see him speak, he has this characteristics of a person that he knows his flaws. He knows when he's put himself in a situation that exposes him for his alleged BS, but he has a way of over talking the room to the point where he gets so loud and starts to have these wild comparisons, and he oftentimes will insert a Bible verse here or there, or not even a Bible verse, but he'll say something that the Bible says, and then all of a sudden the room changes its energy to a degree that now Coach Prime has gotten what he wanted to accomplish. He gets the room to start to think like him, and he changes the whole temperature of the room. Now, some people may say that's a gift. Yeah, it's a gift and a curse. It's a gift to get you out of things, but it's also a curse when it works on a manipulative frequency. When you are manipulative, most manipulative people are influential, which is why they can manipulate you, because they're influential. It's a gift that men are given, like of his ilk, but he uses it incorrectly. He uses it to woo the objective, or woo the alleged objective looker that's viewing Coach Prime to be the certain person, but behind closed doors, he's somebody else. I mean, listen to the interview with those two ex-athletes. Listen to what they said. And it's not a hit piece. I don't think they were out there just, no. They were very sincere men. And it just truly confirms everything that I've thought, well, lately, when I switched my thinking about Coach Prime in terms of how I thought about him initially when he came from Jackson State to Colorado University. Yeah, it confirms it. And more players are going to be coming out. This is just the tip of the freaking iceberg, folks. From Kavasier Smoke to the receiver on the team that said something to these two players, more players are going to be coming out. All right? More players are going to be coming out. And just giving their experience about Coach Prime. Do you think for 1 second that a mother or father who follows Jason Whitlock, if they have a child right now that has the potential to go to any university that they want, and then Colorado University comes knocking at their door, Coach Prime, that's assuming that he actually goes out to recruit. I don't think he does anything. I think that every interview that Coach Prime does, that's his recruiting tool. That's his recruiting mechanism. You know where to find me? You know where to find me? Nah. Get your ass up and go get him. You had that ability initially when you first came. All the powers were given to you. It's almost like Thanos. I think he came in on that Thanos type of power. He had all the rings. Coach Prime had all the rings. He had college football by the neck. The only thing he had to do was run his program with competence. That's all he had to do, but he found a way to derail it. Because again, I told you guys, when you have personal agendas, it doesn't jive with a corporation. It doesn't jive with the program. You get exposed for what you are. And so now that he's slowly getting exposed, he's losing those rings of power. So he doesn't have the power. Now he's still powerful because he's still Prime. But in terms of the rings, like Thanos had, he doesn't have that power anymore. So you can't just sit there and resting on your laurels, sitting on your couch in your office, saying, "Oh, you know where to find me? I ain't hard to find." Yeah, you're hard to find. Yeah, you're hard to find right now, Coach Prime. parents are not going to allow their kids to go to your school. So number one, high school recruits, you can just kiss that goodbye. Now in terms of the portal, you're going to get players who come through the portal, but you're not going to get the type of athletes you want. You're going to get the scraps, the bottom feeders, the ones that didn't play much at their schools, who want an opportunity to play. They'll play hard for you, but you don't respect hard players that play hard. You respect players that are already a finished product. Coach Prime respects players that are already done, that they don't need any more developing. Travis Hunter was one of them. He came out of high school a monster, he was a beast. So he loves players that are already made. He does not develop. Cormani went to the wrong school. Cormani thought that if I go, Cormani McClain, that's the freshman, well, he's going to be a sophomore next year, the freshman cornerback who was like the number one recruit, I believe he was. He goes to Colorado, didn't hardly play, doesn't get developed at all. And people are giving him a hard time. Cormani saying, oh, he doesn't know how to do this, he doesn't know how to do that. He's not being coached. He's not being coached. You think Coach Prime is pouring into him? You think Coach Prime is developing players? No. He wants already made players. He wants them already made. And he thinks that, well, if players are already made, they're not going to hit the portal. They're not going to enter the portal. They're going to stay at their programs. It's very rare. You got a guy that left Georgia. I think his name is Bear something. I forgot his last name. He left Georgia to join USC. That's very rare that you get a guy who played for a national championship winner in Georgia last football season and then leaves and transfers to USC. That happens like once in a blue moon. But if you're looking for established offensive linemen that are already made men, no. They're going to stay at their programs. And if they leave their programs, they're surely not coming to Colorado. They're surely not going to come to your circus. So if Prime is concerned about the offensive line and the protection of his son, you're going to be really concerned next year. I'm going to say this right now. And I know you guys are going to say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Some of you guys will. I believe, and tell me what you guys think about this, I believe that the offensive line is going to be worse next year. And the defensive line. I think they're going to be worse next year. Because you did not develop who you had this year, and you think that you could just plug and play. Get players that are already made. Players who are already made are not leaving their program to come join your circus, Coach Prime. You know where to find me. Yeah, they know where to find you. That's the problem. They found that you are in a circus. And players don't want to come to a circus. They want to come. They want to come play football. They want to come be developed. And people are talking. I'm not the only one talking. I have a social media. I have a YouTube page that I'm talking on. I'm talking about players who actually played for Coach Prime are talking. Ex-players who graduated will start to talk. Players who hit the portal will start to talk. When A.J. Hill, the quarterback who was going to commit to Colorado, when he said, I'm going to help recruit offensive linemen because I want to come play for Colorado and Coach Prime. He actually was there at the game that Colorado blew the 29-point lead to Stanford. He was there and he still was committed. What happened between then and now? You know what happened? The circus got revealed. It's a clown show that's masked with the mask of football program. But if you peel back the mask, you see it's a circus. You have a coach that's disconnected from his players. I mean, for crying out loud, did you hear the part on the Fearless interview where he has a rug outside of his office that says, did I ask you to come in? Did I ask you to knock? Then he had like a red carpet saying, take off his shoes before. Like, what? If that's not narcissistic, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. So, hey, I implore you guys to look at that. Watch that video. And for those who are Prime apologists, and I would even say Ticket, he needs to watch that. And this was not even, and the one thing I like about Jason Whitlock in terms of when he gives interviews, he lets people talk. He allows people to talk. He'll ask a question, and if it takes you 4 or 5 minutes to fully illustrate your point, he doesn't care. He doesn't cut you off. And if you watch the show, it wasn't Jason Whitlock talking about Prime at all. It was the two ex-football players that were talking about their experiences. And man, I was engaged as I've ever been. I was truly focused and engaged on that. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I did not know this. I did not know that. Whoa, Coach Prime did this? Oh my goodness. So you guys need to look at that. Now, Ticket, people like the Ticket on Ticket TV. He likes to defend Coach Prime at all costs, which is okay. People, you're right to defend who you want to defend. But I want you guys to start thinking objectively. It helps. You can't keep putting out past videos of Jason Whitlock in a Ball State uniform, and then you keep showing Coach Prime holding up a Super Bowl trophy, and that's supposed to be your take, to try to elicit some type of emotional response from us, to say, oh yeah, one's a winner, one's a loser. We're talking about now, 2023. Right now, Coach Prime is losing, and right now, Jason Whitlock, he looks like he's the winner in terms of his assessments, in terms of his commentary, and where he stood all along with by Coach Prime. He was speaking out against Coach Prime when it was unpopular during the 3-game winning streak. He was getting a lot of heat from that. A lot. You even had people unsubscribing because he was going against this Christian man. But I think now people are subscribing back to his channel. It really pays to stand on truth, guys, no matter what. No matter how popular no matter how popular or unpopular it is. The popularity of a message shouldn't be the dictating factor to point to you how to stand on certain things. You stand on certain things because they're true. And yeah, we can be misinformed at times, as I was initially. It took me time. I'm a human. I don't know it all initially, but I listen to both sides of the argument and I make up my own mind. That's what makes us critical thinkers. That's what allows you to be a critical thinker. Remove your emotions out of it and look at the facts. Look at the moral implications of something. Look at the end product. Look at the consequences of things that are occurring. And that interview was great. But that's my take, guys. I just want you guys to. I'm gonna play the video later if I have time. I've kind of talked a lot about it already, but man, that show was awesome. That show was awesome. So we'll see how next year goes for Coach Prime. We'll see. That's what I'm just waiting for. I'm anticipating next year with him in the Big 12. Some have made the argument that the Big 12 has lesser competition than the Pac-12. I don't know. Initially, I was leaning towards that, but I don't think so. I think the competition is just as stiff in the Big 12 as it was in the Pac-12 this year. And I would probably make the argument that the Big 12 is more competitive than the Pac-12. But I know the Pac-12 this year had about I think they had 8 of the 12 teams in the Pac-12 who were in the top 25. And that's a record for the Pac-12. The Pac-12 was really up this year in terms, especially in the quarterback position. But we'll see how next year goes for Coach Prime. But to me, I'm not optimistic about next year in terms of the recruitment, the talent that he's going to acquire, the people that he's lost, the key coaches that he's lost. It's too much things to replace. Yeah, you're going to get people at the last second that fill it in. But the program's going to be more fragmented than it was this year. Because at least the first year he came in with sort of a plan. He came in with a group of coaches. He kind of had a direction where he wanted to go. But the direction he wanted to go was mainly pointed at his son. But at least he had direction. I think next year, the team's going to be all over the place. And if you don't respect your players and give respect to them, they're not going to respect you, coach. They're not going to respect you. Okay. That's my take on it. Thank you guys for listening to me. What you guys think about all the things that I've said. Give me your opinions. And I'm going to be breaking down the interview. Not the whole thing, but I'm going to talk about it in my next video. Show you guys some footage from that Jason Whitlock program. And I want you guys to see the body language of both men. It's sad what they thought they had in Colorado. 2 men that believed in Coach Prime, who could have easily ran off and left, and they stayed and worked their asses off just to be dismissed because he, quote unquote, brought his Louis luggage. Disgusting, man. Take care, guys. Leave your comment. Thank you.